Hey, what's going on guys? Welcome back to another tutorial where we are going to learn how to create this awesome input animation using only HTML and CSS. I had tried to explain every single step, so make sure you don't skip any part of this tutorial. Now before continuing on this video, if you are new to this channel, make sure you are subscribed to this channel since I regularly upload awesome tutorials related to web development. By the way guys, this YouTube channel is in collaboration with an awesome platform known as Newton School. So let's check out a bit about what exactly is Newton School.
Let's see about what is Newton School. So Newton School is a platform which prepares you for your career in tech. It has courses designed for working professionals, freshers and even people with no tech background. That means even if you are from a non-tech background, you can also join this platform and can make your career in tech. Newton School will first train you for 6 months and will help you become an amazing full stack developer. Now you might be thinking whether this platform is free or not. So let me tell you a cool thing, that you don't have to pay Newton School anything until and unless you are placed with a minimum 5 lakh CTC. I repeat guys, you don't have to pay Newton School anything for the 6 months full stack developer training until and unless you are placed with a minimum 5 lakh CTC. And I think this is something that all of us should expect from any training program. So must check out their website for more information. I will provide the link in description. Now on their website you can see they have something called the Launchpad. So Launchpad is basically an initiative taken by Newton School for people who want to start their coding journey from scratch, and that too absolutely free of cost. This video of mine will be also available on the Launchpad section. You can go there anytime and you can learn basics of programming languages, you can practice quizzes and even you can do assignments. These all things are completely free to do. Let's start coding our input animation. As always, I had opened an output here for our reference. So let's start coding this animation. So the very first thing that I'm going to create is basically a form group. So I will use a div tag for that and I will give it a class of form group, and this form group will contain our input element. So let me create the input element using the input tag. I want the type to be text. I want to give it an ID, so we can target this ID when we will write label tag. And also I want the required attribute, since this input will be a required input, and also I want the auto completion to be off. Okay, so we don't want any suggestion while writing our input, so I will write auto complete and it will be off. Okay, so we have written our input element. Also the full name that you are seeing here is basically a label. Okay, so we are animating the label. This basically is a label, so let's create the label. So I will use label tag, and in the for attribute I will write this value that is for input, and I will write full name inside it, and I will close the label tag. Okay, so we are done with our markup. Now let's write CSS for our input animation. As always, we will start with a basic reset. So let me use the universal selector and I will give margin 0, padding 0 and a box sizing of border box to all of the elements. Okay, now let's also center our form group within the body tag. So I will target the body tag and I will give it a height of 100 VH, and now I will use the flex method to align our form group in the center of our body. Okay, now you can see our form group is in center of our body tag. Now let's give a fixed width to our form group. So I will target the form group and I will give it a width of 20%. Okay, now let's style our input tag. Okay, so I will target the input tag that is inside our form group element, and the very first thing I want to do in input styling is that I want to give it a width of 100%. so that it cover the entire width of our form group. Okay, now let's give some more styling to our input element. I want the color to be hashtag ff7a00. I want a border bottom of 2 pixels solid hashtag 1313 and 13. I also want some spacing inside our input element, so I will use padding. So I want padding that is 15 pixel from top, 15 pixel from right, 15 pixel from bottom and 0 from the left side. Okay, also let's remove all other borders. We only want border bottom, so I will give border none. As you can see in the output, we only need border bottom. Okay, so we have given border bottom to our input element. I want the font family to be Helvetica. Also, I don't want any outline, so I will give none to our outline property. Now let's style our label tag. So I will target the label that is inside our form group. And now let's give some styling to our label tag. Firstly, I want to position our label tag in relative to the form group element. So I will give it a position absolute and I will give position relative to our form group. And now let's position our label tag. So we want to position our label tag just as we have a placeholder in our input elements. Okay, so basically our label tag will act as a placeholder. You can see this is not a placeholder, it's the label tag. So we will position it in the place of placeholder. Okay, so I will give it a top value. I will give a top value of 15 pixel and a left value of 0. Also we want the color to be hashtag 959595. I want the font family to be Vardhana. Also I want to give it a font size of 13 pixel and I don't want any pointer events, so I will give none to our pointer events property. Now the important and fun part begins. We have to basically animate our label tag when the input is in focus. Okay, so we want to animate our label tag when the input is in focus. Okay, so basically I will use focus pseudo class with our input, and when our input is in focus I want our label tag to get some stylings. Okay, so I will use the adjacent sibling selector. So I will use the plus sign and we will select the label. Okay, so you can see the label is basically adjacent sibling of our input elements. That's why we are using the adjacent sibling selector. Okay, so when our input will be in focus we are targeting label, and let's see what stylings we want on our label when input is in focus. So when the input will get in focus, the label is basically moving upwards. Okay, so we have to move it upwards. Okay, so I will use transform property to move it upwards and I will use translate y, and I want to move it by minus 30 pixel. And now let's see if it's working or not. So our input element is not in focus currently. As soon as I will click on our input element, it will come in focus. So you can see as soon as I'm clicking on the input element, our label is moving upwards. Okay, so this is working fine. And also we want to reduce its font size. Okay, so let's reduce its font size. I want the font size to be 10 pixel and we will also change the color. We want the hashtag 131313 color. And now you can see when I will click on the input, this whole styling is getting applied to our label element. Okay, so you can see the animations are so sudden. So let's use transition property on our label tag. So I will give transition property, and let's say we want to apply the transition in all the properties for now, and I want the transition duration to be 0.3 seconds. So now you can see the effect is smooth, and we can also write some input here. The font family is not working. Let's see what's the problem. Okay, so the spelling was wrong. It's Helvetica. And now the font family will get applied. Okay, now you can see it's working. But the problem here is that as soon as input element will lose its focus, the label will get its initial position. Okay, so you can see when the input is in focus. Also, let's style our focus state so we can properly see when our input is coming in focus. So when the input will be in focus, I want the border bottom color to be hashtag #ff7a00. Okay, so now you can see when our input is coming in focus, the color of border bottom is changing. Okay, so what I was telling you is basically we got a problem here. Okay, so when the input is focused, the label is moving upwards and getting these styles. Okay, so we can write here, suppose user writes his name. Okay, but as soon as input will lose the focus, the label will get its initial position. Okay, so you can see the input is in focus now, but when I will click outside of our input and the input will lose focus, you can see the label is getting its initial position. Okay, so we don't want this. It's looking so much ugly and we don't want this. We have to fix this. So let's see how can we fix this issue. So what I will do is basically, let me write one more selector here and then I will explain you what that selector means. Okay, now what the valid pseudo class will do, basically as the name suggests, it will select the input when the input will be valid. Okay, so what valid means here is basically we have used required attribute here. Okay, that means we can't leave our input element blank. Okay, so now when our input element will be blank, it will considered as invalid, and when we will have some text inside it or when we will fulfill the required attribute, the input will be considered as valid. Okay, so when we have some text written in it, the input is in valid state. Okay, so this is the solution to our issue. Okay, so basically what we are doing here is we are targeting our input when it is in valid state. Okay, so when there will be text inside our input element, this styles is going to apply on our label. Okay, so you can see we have some text inside our input element and the input is in valid state, therefore our label tag is getting all these styles. And now you can see even if our input is not in focus state, we still have our label getting this styling. Okay, so basically these two selectors are working together to style our label tag. And now you can see if I will click on our input element, the label is getting those styles, and let's say user writes his name, and even if the user will click outside of the input, the label will stay here. Okay, because our input is in valid state. So you have to use two selectors to make the label work properly. So you can see how easily we had created this awesome input animation, and if you like the explanation, please give this video a thumbs up and also join me on this web development journey by subscribing this channel. If you have any feedbacks or doubts, you can feel free to comment down below, or also you can reach me out on my Instagram handle, that is @sparshcodes, and I will try to solve your doubts within 24 hours. You can also follow me on Instagram. I upload very helpful and useful content there. Don't forget to check out about Newton School. The link to their website is in description, and I will see you guys in the next video.